This is Power Up Your 401k, the employee trail to retirement by certified financial planner Stephen Smith. Stephen Smith is the founder of Powerhouse Financial Advisors. Powerhouse Financial Advisors, Inc. is an independent firm with advisory services offered through Parsonex Advisory Services, Inc., an SEC registered investment advisor. Expert Press is the publisher of this book. Dedication.
To my wife, Melissa, and my children, Haley, Noah, and Zach, your unwavering encouragement and endless patience have been my greatest strength throughout this journey. Thank you for standing by me, for your love and understanding, and for being the heart of everything I do. This book is as much a testament to your support as it is to the work itself. With all my love, Stephen.
Introduction. Picture this. You're on a bike with great handling and a comfy seat. The trail is smooth, the sky is crisp and beautiful, everything is aligned, and you're feeling just right. You pedal effortlessly as the wind caresses your face at just the right temperature, making you feel grateful to be alive. Then the trail veers off to one side and takes on a steeper pitch. You lean into it, putting a little more into your pedaling. You hit a small rock, nothing bad, just enough to bounce you a little bit. And you tell yourself you've got to keep a closer eye out for these kinds of things. You don't want a flat tire out here so far from anyone else. The trail gets steeper, and the muscles in your legs are burning now. It's less well maintained, and you're crunching over all kinds of debris. It gets so steep that finally you wonder if you should get off and walk for a bit. But something won't let you. You push a little harder, sweat beading your brow now. You spot what looks like the top of the rise, and it reinvigorates you. You push hard now, almost there. When you get there, it's true that you're at the top of the rise. You start to coast down, taking a breath to slow your galloping heart. It's then that you spot the drop that was obscured by a turn in the trail. You have an instant to react. Ditch? Pedal? What do? It's a moment of truth.
As you may be able to tell, I'm an avid biker. I'm also a financial advisor who has led hundreds of clients to successfully navigate all kinds of financial terrain. One thing I've learned from being a financial advisor is that not everyone likes to talk about money. It bores some people. For others, it's a cause of anxiety, maybe dreading up childhood memories of lean times. A lot of people go on a wing and a prayer, and when it comes to financial planning, and take generic advice that they might hear from a buddy or at the tail end of a newscast. Markets down, they may pull back on their contributions to their 401k. Friend has a sure tip about a stock. They may put their money into that. I'm not criticizing that mindset. I've known too many good people with that mindset to see it as anything other than a natural reaction to what can feel like a charged topic. Money is never just about money. It's about your worth as a provider. It's about your children's futures. It's about whether you'll be able to take your sweetheart on that trip, as you know she's been wanting for a long time. It's about whether you get to have the life you want or barely scrape by. This is a different kind of financial book. For one, I'm going to use a lot of biking metaphors to drive my point home. Because while a lot of people have some anxiety about money talk, most people have fond associations with biking. Whether it's your memory of getting the training wheels off your shiny new two-wheeler, or you do long distance, multi-day trail rides like I do. Biking is easy for most of us to understand. There's you and there's the road. Sometimes you're going full steam ahead and sometimes you're struggling. Sometimes the road is smooth and sometimes it's littered with rocks and drops. But don't worry, if you're not an avid biker, the advice and concepts will be straightforward enough to have value to you. This book is different in one other way as well. Too often, financial books take a one-size-fits-all approach, sharing what could help the average investor without knowing the reader's specific circumstances. After all, how could the writer know whether the book is going to get picked up by a nurse, an Uber driver, or a utility lineman. The difference is that I know exactly who you are. This book is written specifically for people in your field who work for a large company with a 401k and maybe a couple of other retirement perks. That's important because you most likely have perks that are unusual and specific to your employer, which other investment books just won't give you the tools to handle. The news is good. You've made a great choice working for the company you do. They have some awesome options to set you up for a smooth financial future and a great retirement. I've had clients who worked your same job and position and set themselves up for the retirement of their dreams. A retirement filled with vacations, a paid off home, golden years full of ease. They're now planning the legacy they'll leave behind for their families, churches, and charities. It doesn't mean having to live on crumbs while you're saving either. It's all about allocating your funds the right way and knowing how to navigate the bumps in the road. That's where I come in. I'm going to lead you along this awesome trail. There may be bumps. What's life without them? But you have an experienced guide, a guide with the inside track to your 401k and retirement benefits. So let's get started setting up for the life of your dreams. You may be wondering just what makes me the guy to listen to in the sea of voices hawking advice. For starters, most of my clients work at large publicly traded companies. Check out this book's website, Power Up Your 401k /employer, to see if we work with your company or your spouse's. It's very important for your financial advisor to be an expert on your company's retirement and health plan, along with getting to know you personally. Many companies have retirement options that make your retirement plan different from those of the general population. If you have a cash balance pension, it means you get to make investment decisions that others just can't. The biggest mistake I see new clients making when they come to my office for a consultation is leaving money on the table because they haven't understood the power of what's available to them and the freedom that it gives them. Besides my singular focus, I've also been in the financial industry for well over a decade. Truth be told, my fascination with finances began even before then, back when I was a kid. My dad gave me a little patch of land on our acreage with a small building to raise livestock and told me I could keep the profits. I loved the idea of harvesting my hard work and turning it into things I wanted. We won't talk about the questionable decisions I made with that money, but hey, I was in my teens and that car and that motorcycle, they looked like a lot of fun at the time. So I've been studying and applying my understanding of money for most of my life. I'm fascinated by the power of money, not because I love chasing stuff, but because I see it as a tool to do good in the world. Whether you want your immediate family to have a worry-free life or you want to set up a nonprofit and make a big difference in the world, being a good steward of your money will get you there. I've helped hundreds of people achieve their goals. I can help you too. Let's go. Chapter 1. Map out your strategy. Would you set out on a long journey to a place you've never been without a map? Chances are you wouldn't. Sure, there can be some fun to just wandering, but no one wants to be caught in the dark without an idea of how to get to shelter. Humans have been making maps since we could write because they're a way of saying, I've been there. Here's what to watch for. Mapping a strategy for your financial future is like that. Sure, you could go it alone, but do you make your own maps? Probably not. You rely on the cartographers whose job it is to make sure every turn and twist is represented correctly. You probably understand that intuitively because you're reading a book about retirement advice. To simplify things, you're probably looking for a money map. These days, I'm very selective about whom I take on as a client, and I'm downright picky about whom I work with. I'm lucky to be able to make those choices. The first quality I look for in a potential client is their willingness to be open. Clients are always in full control, of course, but openness means you're willing to learn what you don't know. Again, you're already showing your capacity to do that by reading this far into the book. This comes up particularly during the mapping out stage. Making financial changes can be tough. If you haven't been saving to your max potential, seeing the smaller paycheck can be daunting. When you increase your retirement fund contribution, your paycheck isn't smaller at all. You're just allocating a bigger chunk of your money to making more money for you instead of getting flushed away on things that you probably can do without. But more on that later. So, why do we map out a strategy? The purpose of a map is to help us see what's ahead. Is a sharp turn coming? How far until the next rest stop? When we know what the map looks like, we know when to pedal harder and when to coast. It's not enough to pick up a target date fund with some desired date in the future and set it on autopilot. You'll be cheating yourself out of a lot of money potentially doing things that way. By the same token, you can ride only as fast as you can scan the trail. There's that biking talk again. It makes sense, right? If you're careening out of control, unsure of whether there's a drop or a sharp turn around the next bend, what's going to happen? Well, if you're like most humans, fear will grip you. The financial equivalent of riding too fast to scan the trail is trying to invest in economically uncertain times. And we've all seen plenty of those in the last few years without knowing the big picture. The big picture matters because what seems like a really big deal in the moment can be put into perspective when you pull back with a wider lens. How long until you retire? How much cushion will your specific cash balance pension, if you have one of those, give you against dips in the market? I like to tell my clients to keep scanning ahead and never lock their eyes on anything. It's true in biking. It's true in driving a car. It's true in investing. If you're staring at the right spot in front of you, you're missing all the big moves way up ahead. The jam of riders, the dip in the trail, raise your gaze. The way this works in financial planning is not reacting to every bit of alarming financial news. People who understand finances know there have always been and will always be ups and downs. The trouble is that when we have an up, it's easy to think there's a natural way of things, the way it's always supposed to be. But the progress in markets isn't always a straight line. Of course, we want the long-term trajectory to be a trend upward. But look at any short amount of time and you'll see jagged lines up and down, some more pronounced than others. If you look further ahead, you'll become a better rider, more unflappable, more strategic. A plan helps you do that. Elevating your gaze will help you see into the future and avoid becoming distracted by the obstacles in front of you. By looking ahead, you give yourself more time to make decisions and to react if necessary. You're a flashlight, not a laser. You have to illuminate all the options ahead of you and not focus on the one little dip in the road. Don't let the big rocks scare you. If you take your eyes off of what matters most, you may just smash into it. Not fun. Take it from someone who knows. What does this mean in financial planning? Above all, it means two things: focus and faith. What do I mean by that? Focus means knowing why you're doing what you're doing. Whether you're a 20 something just starting out or a person in their 50s who just realized they haven't been saving enough to make your ideal retirement a reality, it's never too late to start. Finding focus is about deciding what exactly you want your retirement to look like. The first conversation I have with my clients in this mapping process is not about rates or 401ks or contribution matches or any of that. The first conversation is about their goals. Do they want to have a beautiful, sprawling house on a lake? Or do they want to downsize into an RV and see the country? Do you want to travel a lot, or do you want to be able to entertain at home while volunteering at your church as much as you want? I've seen as many dreams as I've seen clients, and rarely have I seen one that's not possible with the right amount of focus and dedication. I'm going to tell you how to achieve yours. The second part of elevating your gaze is faith. I'm not talking about your personal faith journey, although I've noticed that people who have that often feel a peace that helps them ride out the bumpy times. The faith I'm talking about is faith in the process, in the fact that markets always bounce back because they always have in America. Sure, that talk may sound a little hokey these days, but faith that things are going to go well is integral to finding peace as you invest. No one has ever won betting against America through wars, through recessions, and lately through the unprecedented upheaval of the pandemic. The most robust financial system in the world has bounced back again and again. Why is faith in this important? Because it keeps you steady while news stations are telling you the sky is falling. It's one of those first things I help my clients cultivate, faith that it works out if you know how to keep your handlebars steady. Here's another thing to keep in mind. It's important to check your progress, but not too often. Let me tell you what I mean by this. Remember playing Connect the Dots as a kid? I love watching a picture emerge from what seemed like a random mess of dots. But I didn't like the ones with a ton of dots. Remember those? You'd painstakingly have to go from a dot to dot in tiny lines, and it took forever. I think of the dot to dot games when I'm talking about my clients and about the milestones they should pay attention to. Checking in periodically is not only good, it's imperative. But you'll slow yourself down if you spend too much energy wondering what it all means every single month. That puts the dots too close together. So it's important to connect the dots of your ride, and that's part of making your plan. You'll want to create a check-in mechanism that both calms your need to check the map and keeps your eyes on the trail. Another part of mapping is to practice soft vision. And as an exercise, pick out one object in the room where you are right now. Extra points if you're reading outdoors and aren't in a room at all. Choose an object within 5 feet of you. Now, while keeping that object in your field of vision, see what else is around it. Let's say you picked an item on your coffee table. Now take the whole table, the rug underneath it, the chair beyond it, and the walls in the room without focusing on any one of them. You can be aware of all of them without having to focus on any one. Take the exercise further. What's at the farthest edge of your peripheral vision? Don't turn your head, just be aware of it. Maybe it's an entrance to the room, or a hallway, or another part of the house. You don't have to look specifically at things for them to be in your peripheral vision. What does this have to do with financial planning? Well, in life, it's always good to be aware of your peripheral vision, what's related to your financial plans, but not right at the center of them. Things like news about markets, the tips buddies give us, or even the development of a new hobby may change your long term plans. Notice the edges? I tell my clients, don't look at anything but see everything. This means that you can't let any one thing throw you off your trail. The goal is a well funded retirement full of the things you want. When in doubt, get back to the strategy and your trail map. Everything will be much clearer when you remind yourself you're focusing on a goal, not on every little distraction. Lastly, you'll want to pick great lines that match your goals and your tolerance for risk. Even if you have a friend who started the same year you did and does the same job, it's likely your plans will look a little, or sometimes even a lot, different because everyone is different. There's a line for every purpose. For the sake of the biker talk, I'll categorize them like this: cruising, free riding, and racing. Cruising. Cruising is ideal for the risk-averse person early in their retirement planning. This is the slow and steady wins the race strategy that can work out if you've got a long way to go to retirement. But does anyone really believe a turtle can beat a rabbit? No matter what the children's story says, cruising means picking safer vehicles and sticking to them through the ups and downs. In this plan, compound interest is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting. If you feel that this is a style that best fits you, we'll talk about creating a realistic goal. You'll be making less than the more aggressive investor, and if that's what you need for your peace of mind, that's fine. Just know that you may need to scale your goals accordingly. The cruiser will have to contribute about 6 times more to achieve the same result as a more active investor. Free riding. Free riding is more than a meandering path that a lot of people take. An example of picking the target date stock index fund your plan suggests, sticking with it, and making a few changes. Nothing wrong with that, except it's kind of aimless. People think it's safe, but for employees with, say, a cash balance pension, it's outright leaving money on the table. Now, before I go on, let me clarify. Free riding here is strictly a biking term, not a securities violation. In the world of finances, it may sound like trouble, but in biking, it just means cruising without a clear path or plan, much like how some people approach their retirement investments. So let's get on track. Racing. Racing, as you might imagine, isn't for the faint of heart. It means more speed, but also greater capacity for wipeouts and scrapes. It means putting your money into funds that may have more potential for steep growth, but will give you plenty of thrills along the way. There's more upside to this type of ride. I don't recommend it to my more risk-averse clients or to the ones who are getting closer to retirement, but it can be a heck of a way to build a massive fund to live a spectacular retirement. And the reality is, having some speed will make the trail smoother and the bumps less noticeable. It will get you better long-term results. The power of working with a financial advisor. I've met a lot of people who decided to manage their own portfolios for the first chunk of their careers. Very often, they're sitting in my office midway through their working years, wondering why their buddy who referred them has a much bigger chunk of money saved than they do. It's the difference between gutting and rebuilding your own bathroom and getting a professional contractor to do it. Sure, you probably could build a bathroom, especially if you're handy. These days, there are enough YouTube videos to walk you through just about anything. But there's value in paying a professional for a lot of reasons. They know how to source things that just aren't available to the public. They have experience with different tiles and can warn you that the pretty ones you've got your heart set on tends to crack. They can make sure your sink doesn't leak. In short, they know their stuff. They wouldn't try to do your job, and you're probably better off not trying to do theirs. It astounds me when people who would hire an expert for just about anything then decide to take on the job of managing their money on their own. Again, not that it's not doable. You can probably read enough and spend enough hours to make some good educated decisions. But unless you do it for a living, having an education in it, keeping up with financial news, have decades of experience in dealing with the ups and downs, and have success in guiding hundreds of clients through decisions similar to the ones you're facing, chances are excellent there are things you don't know and can't foresee. That's not because you lack the smarts for it, but because you've specialized your life in a different way. I couldn't do your job either. Nothing represents more aspects of your life than your money. The list is long, but here are a few examples: safety for you and your family, peace of mind for your future, and the ability to do the things you dream of doing. Why would you not get the absolute best help you can with ease? Let's look at real money. What if a financial advisor can save you 1% of your time, energy, and worry by putting together a better suited portfolio than you could have chosen for yourself? What if they can be the voice of reason, allowing you to avoid the big mistake of selling equities at a low during a market crash? What if they could save you 1% of your money, which will then grow with compounded interest during all those years you've got left until retirement? Here's what I tell you: no financial advisor worth their salt will give you specific numbers for how much they can make you and save you. But doing this math, even in these very conservative numbers, can help you see the real world value of having a professional guide along the trail as you navigate one of your most important assets. What are some of the things a financial advisor can't do? No one, not even someone with a crystal ball, can forecast the economy. Sure, we're educated on trends and how they've played out in the past, but take yourself back to January of 2020. What financial professional could have predicted the whole world would shut down just 2 months later? Exactly zero of us. One thing a financial advisor can tell you is that the unexpected will happen. We just can't tell you what it is. We can't forecast the economy, short-term markets, or the future performance of a portfolio just based on past performance. Sure, that doesn't stop the talking heads on TV from trying, but it doesn't make them right. They all make a living out of guessing. What a financial advisor does is not make a living out of guessing. We bring the expertise to the table about what techniques have worked for our clients in similar situations. A financial advisor can let you know the pitfalls of panic selling by using examples of people who did that and people who didn't. You can make the decisions based on this wisdom. So you might ask, what makes us different? So what makes my team and this book different from what you get from other financial advisors? I talked a little about this up top, but it bears repeating. This book is designed with your specific retirement situation in mind. We understand in detail how your retirement plan and all of its components work together to create the best possible outcomes for you and your loved ones. There are a lot of moving parts: 401k, possibly Roth IRA, pre-tax money, matching money, cash balance pension, profit sharing, Social Security, your spouse's retirement funds, inheritances, just to name a few potential options. We work to make sure you're taking all of those into account when you develop your plan. We never deal in prediction and don't spend a whole lot of time on performance. Instead, we focus on planning, perspective, and behavioral coaching to help you take the handlebars of your own financial life with confidence. We give you our full attention and focus when creating a plan, just as I'm doing here by drawing a good map for you in this book. We provide investment recommendations that help you reach your long-term destination. When markets are rough, we address your real concerns and fears. We hear you out. We share the wisdom we've gleaned over decades of doing this work with hundreds of people just like you. But we're also unwavering in our convictions. You'll always get your recommendations straight and unvarnished. But it's not a one-way street. We also expect certain things from our clients and investors, which is why I'm selective about who I work with. I train my team to be selective as well because, as with any relationship, the relationship between client and financial advisor has to have a few key elements to work. The first element is trust in the financial advisor's judgment and financial plan for you. By the time someone makes it through my door, they've most likely heard about the results I've gotten for their friend or family member. If not, I'm always happy to provide referrals. Faith in the future will boost your confidence in your roadmap today. Having faith can be hard, especially when your plan seems at odds with today's newspaper. But it's a requirement for a long-term strategy to stick to. Second thing that's key for my clients is understanding that your trail is different. Your cash balance pension is a game changer that should alter how you deal with Social Security and other retirement savings. Here's an example. A client recently reached out for some help getting ready for retirement. He turned 50 and was unsure whether he and his wife could be able to achieve their goals. He had been with the company for a very long time, had a cash balance pension benefit, was on track to get an 85% retirement insurance benefit. Both he and his wife expected to get Social Security benefits. After we evaluated their portfolio, we found they had 30% in stock equity and 52% in bonds and 18% in real estate and precious metals. As you can imagine, the employee was quite surprised to learn about how that target date fund and the cash balance portfolio together made for a significantly underperforming and conservative portfolio. His curiosity turned to a frown when I explained that if he kept on this trajectory, he would have to work 5 to 7 more years than if he had a regular portfolio better suited for his situation. But the good news was that he had come to me in time to make the right adjustments. With the right planning and analysis tools, we were able to set him on a track to retire at 62 without having to compromise his family's lifestyle. It's not hard, but it requires some expert guidance. You can have a retirement that gives you a whole new act to do with as you please. People live a lot longer these days, and chances are good you'll have almost as long a post-retirement as your years of work. With the right planning, these years can be filled with all your favorite experiences. It's one of my favorite things about the work I do. Sure, I guide portfolios, but really, I map ways to dreams.